Honourable Member for Cumberland, Colchester, Musquodoboit Valley.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of Economic Action Plan 2013, a budget focused on jobs, growth, and long-term prosperity for all Canadians. Now, when we ran in the election in 2011, we asked the Canadian people for a mandate, and that mandate also included balancing the budget within the term of that mandate, balancing the budget by 2015. And this budget, presented by the Minister of Finance, with the support of the Prime Minister of Canada, keeps us on track to having that budget balanced by 2015. Now, as we move towards a budget that will be balanced, we have three opportunities to do that, three paths that we can take. The first would be a path to raise taxes. And many governments across Canada have taken the challenge to balance their budgets by raising taxes. That is not the path of this finance minister. That is not the path of this government. We will not balance the budget by raising taxes upon the people of Canada. In fact, when you look at this budget, since we were elected in 2006, we will have cut taxes in the average Canadian family by $3,200. And we're still going to balance the budget by 2015. By lowering the tax burden upon the people of Canada, we are increasing jobs, we are increasing growth, we are increasing the productivity of our country. Low taxes mean more jobs means more productivity. That is the path we're taking. The second path we could have chosen would be to cut the transfers to the provinces, like we saw the Liberal Party do in the 90s. Those transfers that are very valuable to the provinces as they try to deliver on the priorities of Canadians in terms of education, in terms of health care. We saw billions of dollars taken back from the provinces in terms of those transfer payments in the 90s. That saw hospitals close. It saw nurses laid off. It saw teachers laid off. It saw Ray Days in Ontario. We do not want to go back to that path. We will not support that. And this budget does not cut any transfers to the provinces. In fact, since we took office in 2006, the federal government has increased transfers each and every year. Transfers for health care, transfers for the social transfer, transfers for equalization, all have been increased each and every year. That is more support for the provinces. And still, even though we are increasing that support for the provinces, we are still on this path to balance the budget. In fact, since 2006 when we took office, we've increased the transfers from the federal government to the provinces by over $20 billion to a record high in 2013-2014 of $62 billion. An incredible amount of money that our provinces can use to support health care, to support education, to pay doctors, to pay nurses, to pay teachers, to support other social programs within their provinces. That is an incredible commitment the federal government has made to the provinces, and we are keeping that promise. My own province of Nova Scotia has seen the transfers from the federal government to the province of Nova Scotia increase from 2006 in the amount of $2.2 billion to almost $3 billion, an increase of almost $700 million. Now, $700 million, that's a lot of nurses, that's a lot of teachers, that's a lot of support for priorities of Nova Scotians, and that's what's contained in this budget. Now, the third path, the one we are choosing to balance the budget, is a path to look first into government spending and making sure we focus government spending in a pragmatic and prudent way, focusing on the priorities of Canadians. And that's what you see, Mr. Speaker, in this budget. And this budget supports my constituents in a large rural riding on the East Coast because it focuses on the same priorities, jobs and growth and prosperity. It supports industries that are needed, industries that support my riding, industries that hire the vast majority of the residents and constituents that I represent here in Ottawa. For example, this budget supports infrastructure, and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities asks this government to support infrastructure, wastewater treatment plants, roads, bridges, all the infrastructure needed to attract business to come to rural parts of Canada. Infrastructure needed both in urban and rural Canada. That's what this budget focuses on. Now, the Build Canada plan, which sunsets next year, put billions of dollars working with municipal leaders across Canada supporting infrastructure development. But the Federation of Canadian Municipalities asked the government to do a longer-term deal in this budget, which we have done. It's a 10-year deal for the new Build Canada plan, adding $53 billion, $53 billion for infrastructure from coast to coast to coast. Roads, bridges, recreational centres, wastewater treatment plants. These are the projects that this fund will help, and that's going to help build the economy in the rural parts of the country and in urban parts of the country. The Canadian Federation of Municipalities also asked the government to support them against the gas tax. Now, we all know that in previous budgets, we made that gas tax allowance permanent. That was something that was asked for. That was something that was delivered. In this budget, we are indexing that gas tax allowance to protect the municipalities from inflation, so they can count on that money to continue and continue at an indexed rate so they know they will not be hurt by inflation. That was an ask the Canadian Federation of Municipalities made, and that's one we delivered on. Now, do they support the budget? Absolutely. I'm going to quote, "Today's budget delivers significant gains for Canada's cities and communities. We applaud the government for choosing to continue moving our communities forward, even as it meets its immediate fiscal challenges. This is a budget that delivers real gains for Canadians. It will spur growth and job creation while laying the foundation for a more competitive economy." And that's a quote from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. This budget, this finance minister, and this prime minister have delivered for our municipal leaders across Canada and delivered for the municipal leaders in my riding. Now, in Cumberland, Colchester, Musquodoboit Valley, we also have a large forestry industry. Does this budget support the forestry industry? These are the guys that go out in the woods and cut the trees down. But not only them, it supports the truckers that transport those logs to the sawmills. It supports the sawmill workers who turn that into lumber. It supports the manufacturers to turn that lumber into products which we export not only here in Canada domestically, but export worldwide. This is a strong budget in support of the forestry industry. Now, the Forest Products Association supports this budget. They say that the FPAC welcomes the additional support for innovation and market development unveiled in today's budget, and also applaud the government's focus on skills training. We applaud the government for its continuing support for the forest products sector, even at a time when tough measures are needed to reduce the deficit. This is a strategic, future-oriented decision that demonstrates ongoing commitment to the transformation of the industry. So we have support from the forestry industry for this budget. The agriculture industry. In my riding, agriculture is a heartbeat. It employs literally thousands of my constituents. We have blueberry producers, dairy farmers, beef farmers, poultry farmers. We have agriculture producers across the ones who have created innovative products. We have fruit producers in the riding. This government and this budget supports the agriculture sector. It's expanding our markets internationally. It's investing in research and innovation so that agriculture producers can develop new products and open these products up and sell them in new markets. This is a strong budget in support of research, innovation, and agriculture, and particularly supports the extension of international trade so we can produce and export our trade and our agricultural products to new markets. Now, what does the agriculture community say about this budget? Well, the Canadian Cattlemen's Association says the CCA welcomes Budget 2013 and appreciates the federal government's continued commitment to innovation, competitiveness, market development, regulatory cooperation, and addressing labour shortages. These are the top priorities for our industry and for the Canadian Cattlemen's Association. Strong support from the agricultural community for this budget. Strong support for the industries that are important in my riding for this budget. Now, also in my riding, we have some manufacturing. And the manufacturing is centered around the aerospace industry. I have an IMP plant in Amherst which employs 400 people. I have an IMP plant in the Halifax Airport region which employs over 1,200 people. 1,600 of my constituents directly employed in the aerospace industry. And I know there's many, many thousands in the Quebec aerospace industry that are employed and support and put dinners on the tables of their families due to direct employment from the aerospace industry. What does the aerospace industry say about this budget? Well, they say that the AIAC is very pleased with the measures announced in the Economic Action Plan 2013. The measures announced in this budget constitute an excellent short-term response to the Aerospace Review Report. So support for this budget in that. Mr. Speaker, in closing, this budget supports my riding. It supports the agriculture community, the forestry industry, it supports the municipalities and infrastructure, it supports the aerospace industry. Many, many of my constituents will benefit very much from the implementation of this budget, I ask all the colleagues in the House, please stand up and support Economic Action Plan 2013. Thank you.
Questions and comments? Question et commentaires. The honourable member for Juan de Fuca.
Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. I listened with interest to the members talking about who in his riding supported this, and I'd like to ask him if he's talked to those running job training programs. Because I was back in my riding and I talked to the WorkLink Society and the Youth Pathways Society, who operate very important programs for getting people their first jobs or getting people back to work or getting the skills training they need. And with this new program that's been announced by the government, which has no budget, no start date, no agreement with the provinces, they're worried they're going to have to shut down these programs at the end of the year and stop operating these very important programs in my community. So they're very, very concerned about this very vague training program that has nothing specific in it for them or the people they serve.
Honourable member for Cumberland, Colchester, Musquodoboit Valley.
Well, often the opposition and the other side criticize our government for failing to consult and not listening. And as part of this budget, we are going to start consultations with the province on skills training. And why is this important? It's important because last year alone, there were over 250,000 highly skilled jobs available that the employers could not find people to do the job. We also have this large amount of people that currently can't find work. So we have a disconnect between jobs that are available and the skills needed to fill those jobs and the people who are currently unemployed. So we need to work together across the country with our provincial partners to put processes in place so that we can match up people who have the skills needed with the jobs that are available today. That's what this plan's about. So there will be consultations with the province. To the people who are worried how this is going to affect their programs, I don't think they should have to worry very much. This is the first budget I can remember, and I've got 18 years as a professional educator, that has education and training as a centerpiece. As an educator, I was pleased to see that in this budget.
Questions and comments? Question et commentaires. The honourable member for Winnipeg North.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. This is the second speaker from the Conservative side that has talked about aerospace jobs and basically trying to say that they're standing up for aerospace jobs. I have a real problem with that, a serious concern. The government would be aware that there was the Air Canada Public Privatization Act, Participation Act, and in that act it made it very clear that Montreal and Mississauga and Winnipeg would continue to have those very important aerospace jobs with Air Canada, the overhaul maintenance. Now, when Air Canada offloaded it to Avios and then Avios ultimately closed down, there has been serious allegations of Air Canada violating the law. And the Prime Minister and his government did absolutely nothing to protect those very important aerospace jobs. My question to the member is that why did the Government of Canada not protect those important aerospace jobs when there was a law that was there, that is there today, and a lot of these employees, hundreds and hundreds of employees, felt that the government stood by and allowed Air Canada to get rid of those jobs?
Honourable member for Cumberland, Colchester, Musquodoboit Valley.
Well, I find it laughable that a member from the Liberal Party is criticizing the support this government's made to the aerospace industry after the decade of darkness that they delivered to Canada's military. I mean, we took over government from them. We had helicopters that wouldn't go up and submarines that wouldn't go down. It was a decade of darkness. General Hillier said that in his book. And the damage that did to our aerospace industry was devastating. We are only beginning to recover. So you can count on this government to continue to work with our aerospace partners, and aerospace, the industry is supportive of this budget. We're going to continue to support those because those are important manufacturing jobs, not only in my riding, but across the country.
Questions and comments? Question et commentaires. The honourable member for Surrey North. Short question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be very short and brief. And I've seen a pattern from the Conservative government when they introduce a bill, whether it's the Aboriginals, affecting Aboriginals, whether it's affecting search and rescue, whether it's affecting the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. They bring in a bill without consultations, and they promise to do consultations afterwards. Do they not trust the provinces to deliver the program that has been going on for a number of years, this jobs program? I believe that the effective way to deliver programs like such as job training would be done at a local level where the local organizations understand the local issues and demands and local priorities. And Conservative government, without any consultation, and they want to bring this to Ottawa, and we know what happens in Ottawa. Could the member elaborate on that?
Honourable member for Cumberland, Colchester, Musquodoboit Valley. Very short, please.
Well, on that issue, the minister in charge of education in Nova Scotia is interested in working with the federal government on the jobs grant program. She says that this is an interesting program. She's going to negotiate and collaborate. And this is an NDP minister in Nova Scotia. So I think there's willingness across the country with the provinces who all realize we need to focus on jobs and skills. In Nova Scotia alone, we have a $25 billion shipbuilding program. We're going to need thousands of skilled tradespeople to fill those jobs in the maritime provinces. And this jobs grant is going to meet that need. We're going to collaborate and work with the provinces to deliver on that goal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.